The night after she was forced out of her own home was long and bitterly cold. The old woman sat beneath the open sky, wrapped in a thin blanket, listening to the distant sound of insects and the wind moving through dry grass. Every sound reminded her of the life she had lost. Her house, once filled with warmth, now stood behind closed doors, occupied by hearts that no longer cared for her. She did not sleep. Memories kept her awake. She remembered holding her daughter as a child, feeding her, protecting her from storms and sickness. She wondered when love had turned into cruelty. Tears rolled down her face, but she wiped them away quietly. Crying would not change her fate. Before dawn, she slowly stood up. Her body ached, but her spirit refused to break. With careful steps, she walked toward the old corral behind the farm, the place her husband had trusted most. Years ago, they had hidden their savings there, hoping they would never need it. As the moonlight faded, she knelt beside the stones. Her hands trembled as she moved them aside. When she opened the small stone box, her breath caught. Inside were folded bills, old coins, and a small note written in her husband's handwriting. "For you, if life ever turns against you." She pressed the note to her chest and closed her eyes. For the first time since being abandoned, she felt something other than pain. She felt strength. At sunrise, she left the farm behind. Each step away from that house was heavy, but it was also freeing. She walked toward the neighboring village, unsure of what awaited her, but determined not to beg for kindness. If she had to begin again, she would do it with dignity. By midday, exhaustion overtook her. Her feet were swollen, and her throat burned with thirst. When she reached the edge of the village, a familiar voice called her name. A farming family she once knew recognized her immediately. Shock turned into concern when they saw her condition. They welcomed her inside without questions. They offered warm bread, tea, and a clean place to rest. That night, lying on a simple bed, the old woman finally slept, deeply and peacefully. She did not know it yet, but this was the first night of her new life. Morning light filtered gently through the small window, waking the old woman from a deep and peaceful sleep. For the first time in many years, she felt rested. The pain in her body remained, but the weight in her heart felt lighter. She sat up slowly and listened to the quiet sounds of the farm, the soft clucking of chickens, distant footsteps, and the breeze brushing against the walls. The kind family greeted her warmly. They did not rush her, nor did they question her past. Instead, they treated her with respect, as if she had always belonged there. Over breakfast, she finally spoke. "I need land," she said softly. "Just a small piece. Enough to live quietly." The farmer nodded. "There is land not far from here," he replied. "It hasn't been used in years, but the soil is good." Later that day, they walked together to see it. The land was simple, open ground, wild grass, and plenty of sunlight. To others, it might have looked empty, but to her, it looked full of possibility. She touched the soil and smiled faintly. This was where she would begin again. Using the money she and her husband had saved, she bought the land without hesitation. Word spread quickly through the village, and neighbors came forward to help. Some brought tools. Others brought wood, nails, and food. No one asked for payment. Kindness, she learned, still existed in the world. Days turned into weeks as a small wooden house slowly rose from the ground. The old woman worked when she could and rested when she had to. Though her hands shook at times, her spirit stayed steady. Each plank placed felt like a promise, to herself and to the memory of her husband. When the house was finished, she planted corn and vegetables. She raised chickens and repaired old fences. Life settled into a quiet rhythm. There was no shouting, no anger, only the sound of honest work and peaceful evenings. A young boy from a nearby farm began visiting often. He helped her carry water, fix fences, and tend the crops. He never complained and always spoke to her with respect. In his presence, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. She felt valued. As the seasons changed, so did her heart. The pain of betrayal did not disappear, but it no longer controlled her. She had built something of her own, with patience and dignity. She stood one evening outside her new home, watching the sun sink behind the fields. The land glowed in warm light, and she whispered quietly, "I survived." She did not know that fate was already preparing the next test, one that would bring the past back to her door.